students, a very warm welcome to the second session of Nazism and the Rise of Hitler with your master teacher for social sciences at Vedantu, Ankana. How are you guys doing? I hope all of you are doing absolutely fine, staying home, staying safe. What's up, people? Do tell me in the comment section. So guys, let's get started with the second session of this chapter. I know this has been one of the most awaited sessions because it has been some time that we have had the first session, and my sincere apologies for that. But I just wanted to do it right with all the other things. So we have finally got here, and very soon the third session is also going to come. So you don't have to worry about any of it. Okay. Chalo, let's quickly get started. Before that, let me quickly remind you about the Vedantu Pro subscription. As you know, unlimited live classes with so much quizzes, opportunity to compete with the students of around the world, interactive replays with live quizzes, leaderboards, premium downloadable content with the handwritten notes of the master teacher. All of these things is going to be available for you with in-class doubt solving, tests and assignments, and all the micro sessions and crash courses absolutely free. Means less is going to be more. For more classes, you will have to pay minimal amount of price, right? And all of this is available on the link which is given in the description box. It is also pinned in the comment section. The code is AKEPRO. But you do not forget to use this code, otherwise you wouldn't get the discount. And it will cost you around 11 and 9 rupees or 8 rupees respectively for 1 month, 3 months and 6 months. So please make sure that you are subscribing. The code is AKEPRO, as you know, and this is the link given in the description box, also pinned in the comment section. You can also see it in the live chat. Chalo, let's quickly move on with the discussion of the previous session's question. It is D 1980, and Aditya Teli, Seema Rathi and Himani B have answered the fastest. Amazing job. My heartiest congratulations to you guys, and I'm super proud of you. For the rest of you who have not been able to do this, who have not been able to make their place to the leaderboard, but please make sure that you are subscribing. Subscribe karna bahut zaruri. It's very important to subscribe to the channel. Only then you will get the notification of the videos that is going to come, that is being premiered or coming live, so that you do not miss on the video. At the same time, make sure to put your answers not just in the live chat but also in the comment section. Okay, now with that, I'm going to move on with our index. So we'll start with the year of depression, then how did the power of Hitler rise, the destruction of democracy, reconstruction, and the Nazi worldview. So Bacha, this is the part that we had, stopped in the last session, where we kind of stopped in the last session. So today we're going to move forward from there. We were discussing in the previous session that how America had come forward in Germany's economical crisis to help them, to hold their hands by giving them loans, which was going to be, which they were going to pay back US eventually. But there was a stock market crash in US, a very severe recession hit. Now, as US has been a superpower financially and every way possible right from the beginning, when it got hit, the whole world got hit and took a toll because of that. Now, which one was hit the worst because of this? Germany. Germany's economy took the worst hit because of this change, because of this recession in America, because of America's recession. Right? Germany took the worst hit more than any other company because they were completely dependent on America's money for this. All the workers, everyone, guys, lost their jobs. The production came down to 40%. Already Germany was not in a very good shape. They were not really producing a lot. They had just started to stand back on their feet when this happened, and then the production went back to 40%. The workers lost their jobs. Even if they did not lose their jobs, they were not being paid fully. The amount of money that was being paid to them was very less, right? Now, people was in such a bad situation that they had started moving with a placard around their neck, which would say that we are ready to do anything. The condition was so bad that they were ready to do any job that was still, as far as it was going to pay them, it was that bad. Around 6 million people had lost their jobs and become unemployed. Now, this was an unprecedented number. This was a number which had not been seen by anyone before, which had not been anticipated by anyone before, and as a result of which, naturally, people went to a social unrest. People were very, very anxious. People were very, very worried, very tensed, very stressed. Also, the youth, it took a very major, setback. It was a big, big setback for the youth. Now, youth actually started taking over to crimes because of the unemployment. Because of the unemployment. Now, guys, what happens? Wherever there is unemployment, the crime rate is always higher. Why? Because people do not have work to do. They do not have jobs to do, but they have to run their family. They have to feed themselves. As a result of which, they start, kind of maybe cheating other people. So that was another problem. Now the middle class and the working population had another fear, the fear of proletarianization. Now what is this proletarianization, bacha? What was this fear that these guys had? This is basically a fear of reduction in rank. Okay, what do we mean by reduction in rank? See, these guys were self-employed. They had their own business, or they were doing some job at a better position. They were so afraid that they will have to now get employed and work for someone else on wages by an employer, by an external employer, which they will have to work for. Which means they were early working for themselves. Now they would have to work for someone else. That was going to be a huge, huge pain for them. At the same time, only one group was able to survive. Which was that group? Organized laborers. Only the organized laborers were able to kind of survive, were able to keep their head above waters in this situation. Why? Because they were coming together for each other's help. They were going to hold each other's hand, and even the women and everyone was in a very, very bad situation. Everyone was starving and everyone was fighting for their food. There was no food. They were in a lot of despair. Okay, so that was the situation. Now, there at the same time was defects with the Weimar Republic, with the government that was there. See, guys, the people of Germany already hated them. They already pretty much hated them. Why? Because they believed that the Treaty of Versailles had happened because of them. Their reputation and their status was pretty fragile right from the beginning in the state. On top of it, the conditions were not at all favorable. So this government was very unstable and vulnerable at this stage. Very unstable and vulnerable. Not just the government, the society, the country in general was facing this. Now, the government was supposed to hold the hands of the citizens and make them feel that people, you are safe, you're not going to go anywhere, we are going to take care of everything. Because in such crisis, people look up to their government. But Weimar Republic was, dealing with their own problem. See, they had a problem of proportional representation, which means wherever the number of, votes they were getting, according to that, seats were given to them. If more parties, one party is getting more number of votes, more representation will be given to them. All of that, confusion was already going on. As a result of which, never ever a majority government was being formed. So no majority government was being formed. No majority government. So next thing what happened, because there was no majority government, it kept on falling, it kept on, so coalition was formed, right? This is what happens whenever there's no majority government, coalition is formed. Now this coalition government kept on forming, kept on falling, then again kept on forming, kept on falling. Among all of this crisis, they needed a stable government to support them. The government in itself was very unstable. The situation was very vulnerable. On top of it, there was something called Article 48. So while they were busy establishing themselves only, Article 48 was implemented very, very, frequently. This article was basically a right given to the president, a power given to the president to impose emergency, suspend the civil rights, and rule by law, rule by decree. See, over here, these rights are given for the case of emergencies only. The idea is whenever the situation is completely out of control, then people should use this to take the control over the place and to take the control over the citizens. But these guys were, Weimar Republic was continuously imposing it because they did not know how, what was the other way to deal with it. People already had no confidence. They further lost it in the democratic parliamentary system with all of these things going on. Now, if the government has lost its reputation, if the government has lost the reputation and respect. Not just that, the trust of people. What happens? Obviously, it gives a space for someone else to swoop in. And that is what exactly happened with Hitler. He got the right opportunity to come into the scenario and take control with the Weimar Republic's weak representation. Hitler was, guys, actually born in Austria. If you see, he was not a German. He was not really a German, right? He was born in Austria in 1889. He came from a poor family and then he ended up joining the military, and that too by mistake. He was not actually supposed to join the army. He ended up there by mistake, and then also he did not join at a good position. He joined just as a very basic messenger. But he was very hardworking, he was very aspirational, and he always wanted to be on top, as a result of which he kept on growing and even earned many medals for his bravery in the First World War. Now, the Germans' defeat had horrified him. He was very, very hurt with that. So, what had happened was, while he was working in, fighting for Germany in World War One, he got injured twice. The first time he went and he came back and he resumed fighting the war. The second time he got so injured that when he went, by the time he came back, Germany had already lost the war. The First World War was over, and the Treaty of Versailles had happened. When he came and he heard of it, he was really, really disappointed because of the Treaty of Versailles. He felt that they had been humiliated, and he was furious because of it. First of all, he was furious because of their loss, and then on top of it, he was horrified. He was completely upset and disgusted with all of that. Now he left the army. He said that ab army mein rehke koi fayda nahi. There is no use of staying in the army. My purpose, which was supposed to be served, has been lost now. So he decided to actually go ahead and do something else to make the country give an answer back for its insult. Now, it was not possible to do it with only staying with the army, so he decided to go and join politics, and he joined the German Workers' Party and renamed it as National Socialist German Workers' Party. This is the only party, guys. The interesting fact is that came to be known as Nazi Party. So maybe you may be given a 1-mark question from this. So please make a note of it, that the National Socialist German Workers' Party is what later came to be known as the Nazi Party, which was earlier known as the German Workers' Party. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, so National Socialist German Workers' Party later came to be known as the Nazis Party. Okay, now in 1923 he decided that he will start taking control of different regions, and he will start with his ruling properly. So he tried to seize control over Bavaria, but he failed miserably. Okay, as a result of which, instead of being able to control the place, he ended up being arrested and he ended up being in jail. So he got arrested for this. So leave alone to be able to seize the control, he got arrested. Now normally what happens? Normally people, if they get arrested, they would be like, okay, fine, leave it. I have done enough of struggle in my life. I have fought with the army, lost the First World War. I have tried to capture Bavaria, but that was also that also lost. And he got arrested for treason on top of it. So anyone at this point would want to give up, but not Hitler. He did not back down. He had to prove himself, and his all his agendas and all of these things were not so effective till 1930. But that is still the only time till when he had his struggle. After that, he changed everything. Okay, but the thing is that till this point he was not so effective. Then what changed, and how did all of a sudden Nazism become such a powerful ideology, and how did Nazi party become so powerful? See, Nazism became a mass movement only during the Great Depression. The Great Depression acted in Hitler's favor. How did it acted in his favor? But everything had collapsed. What are these things? Things like business had shut down, banks had shut down, factories had shut down. So all the things which were bringing money in any form were shut down. People had no jobs. There were no jobs for people. People were unemployed. As I told you, 6 million people got unemployed. And especially the middle class. They were really, really afraid. They were really, really under a lot of fear. They were scared. And they were in this condition of absolutely helplessness. Now they needed at this point someone to stir hopes in them. At this point, they needed somebody to give them hopes to live, to be able to survive, and that is what the Nazi propaganda did. They knew where to hit it, and they hit the nail right on its head in the right direction at the right point for a better future. So the thing that they started selling was their USP became that they're going to give the people a better future where unemployment is not going to be there, where so much of disrespect and humiliation is not going to be there. And he said that he's going to take revenge for all these humiliations that has been caused to him. Now this is exactly what people wanted to hear. People wanted to hear this. Wanted to hear and believe something like this. And believe this. What they needed was hope in life. So Hitler was a powerful and effective speaker. He was a very, very good orator, guys. Whenever he used to speak, people used to get mesmerized and be completely mobilized by his, speeches only. So whenever he said all of these things, they were completely influenced and agreed to him. And he even promised them a strong nation where everyone would get employment. Now people were in despair, people were in pain, they wanted hope, they wanted help, and Hitler showed that path to him, Hitler showed that dream to him of a super powered Germany. So in 1928, I told you till 1930 they struggled, it was a challenge for them. So in 1928, when the Nazi party actually participated, they only got 2.6% votes in the Reichstag, the German parliament. In the German parliament, they only received 2.6, not even 3%. But by 1932, it had changed so much that they became the largest party with 37% of votes. Guys, he had promised everything. He had promised employment to those who were looking for work. He had promised a secure future for the youth who were getting, who were deviating towards crime. Now, that is what people were looking for. So naturally, because of that, after this, with all these promises, from 1928, he made promises of jobs, education, etc. People from 1928 now voted for him in 1932 and made them the most, the largest party with 27% vote. So everything that people were missing, they heard from the Nazis, they heard from Hitler. And as a result of which, this politics became like the, you could say, primary attention of the entire nation. At the same time, they did not used to do anything very soberly, very silently. All of these things was done in a spectacular manner, in a manner that everyone would see and be amazed like, oh my God, this is Hitler. So guys, everything, be it the rallies, the public meetings, the speeches, all of these things were done to support Hitler. And it used to get a lot of number of people to show that all the masses were supporting him. Even if they were not, they were gathered over there. Also, they used to use certain symbols to give the people a sense of unity. Sense of unity. Okay, the propaganda skillfully projected Hitler as a messiah, as a savior. They said that Hitler is going to save us from all of these problems. And symbols like, posters, or you could say banners, with swastik on it, was being regulated. Then there was a particular kind of Nazi salute. Then there was different rounds where a particular ritual of applauses was followed whenever the speeches were being given up. So all of these things were basically united people and bringing them together. If 10 people were doing, another 2 people would automatically join them. But then how did the destruction ended? But Hitler was actually an autocrat. He was a dictator. And everyone was aware of this, but not in the beginning. No one right in the beginning knew that Hitler was actually a dictator. And this is what he wanted. See, democracy was already there in Germany. People were just not happy with it, but that doesn't mean that they did not want democracy. They wanted democracy. But now that Hitler had made his place, he wanted to go ahead and do something else. Now, how did he make his place? So, but in 1933, after looking at his success, the President Hindenburg, he himself brought him and made him give him the chancellorship and the highest position of the cabinet of ministers to the Hitler. Right now, the highest position of cabinet of ministers in India is of the PM. So, you can imagine he was almost equivalent to Modi ji's position in India right now in Germany at that point. So that is what has happened. Now, once he got all of this power, now he wanted to bring out his true intentions and rule everyone. He was not at all up for democracy. All he was for dictatorship. So now Nazis had managed to rally the conservatives to their cause as well. Having acquired the power, Hitler had set out to dismantle the structures of democratic rule. He wanted to throw it right away. He felt that all of these things was not going to make the country stable and will also hinder the development. So he wanted to throw away all of these democracy and everything and take full control and rule everything as per his will. And as I told you, the time had always been very, very favorable for him. All of a sudden, a mysterious fire broke out in the German parliament building in February and facilitated his move. What he started doing was he started saying that we are still under attack, Germans are still being attacked, we are still not safe. And with that explanation, he applied the fire decree of 28th February 1933. Now, this law, this policy, what did this say? This basically indefinitely, which means there was no time period. For indefinite amount of time, the rights, the civic rights of the people were suspended, like freedom of speech, press, assembly. See, normally whenever democracy is being overthrown, democracy, if it's being overthrown, someone will come, right? Not everyone will just tolerate this. And who are these people who will come? The people will protest, the press will show that, the assembly will protest. What he did was he suspended all of these things. Now his path was absolutely clear. He knew what he was supposed to do, and with that he started his job of taking the dictatorship role, the role of dictator. Then he turned his Archimedes, whoever were their enemies, the communists were his biggest enemies. See guys, he did not believe in equality. Did not believe in equality. That is why he believed in dictatorship. But communists were exactly of the opposite thoughts. So they were his biggest enemies. In fact, he had a list where he had 50 plus enemies name into it. They were the ones who were on his chief target, and most of them were hurriedly packed off to the newly established concentration camps. Now, what are concentration camps? A camp where people were isolated, separated from the rest of the people, and they were, being processed or without trial. Okay, without proper trial, they were just sent over there, detained over there, and it was basically to keep them over there as a punishment. And this concentrated camps was electrified with barbed with wire fences, which was electrified. Now, the repression of the communists was very, very severe because he really wanted to get rid of them. Out of the surviving 6,808 arrest files of this small city, 500,000 population, which is 1,440, were those of the communists alone. So you can imagine more than 1/5 of the total cases were just of the communists, and this was just among one out of the 52 types of victims persecuted by Nazis across the country. They had 50 more on his list. Okay, after that, on 3rd March in 1933, Enabling Act was passed. This was one of the worst acts in the history. Okay, no one has seen any such act like that. This act established dictatorship in Germany. You can imagine an act has officially established Germany as a dictator, as a place where dictatorship was going to be there. It gave Hitler all the powers to sideline the parliament and rule by his own law, whatever he wanted to do. All the political parties, trade unions were banned except for Nazi party and its affiliates, which means everything else was basically illegal. So ab koi bhi, anyone who was trying to raise a voice or stand against Hitler would basically be illegal. So you can see how he planned everything. The state established complete control over the economy, media, army and judiciary. Everything they had taken under control and seized under themselves. Now, not just that. Hitler, guys, was a very, very a skeptical person. He did not used to trust anyone. As a result of which, he even started a special surveillance and security forces, which was also known as the SSD, Security Service, which was called the SSD. These were basically the Gestapo, the secret state police, and the criminal police, and the security services. Now, they used to monitor everyone. He did not used to trust anyone. No children, no women, no men. Everyone was under surveillance. People could now be detained by these people, by the police, by the state security, anyone that they felt a little bit doubt on also. And they were then tortured in the chambers and was arrested without any trial, without any legal procedures. The police forces acquired police to rule with impunity. But what does impunity means? Without any consequences. Without any consequences. So you can see how immense power was given to the police and special police. Immense power to security was given. So that is what had happened. Now that was all of the destruction of the democracy. Now we're going to talk about reconstruction. So definitely there was a lot of destruction. He destroyed a lot of things, but he also reconstructed a lot of things. There are few things that he did for good also. For example, he hired an economist, Sashu. Okay, why? Because he wanted to give him the responsibility of economic recovery. He wanted him to make sure that Germany stands back on its feet in terms of economic development and stability. Employment was already a problem. The economy was already a problem. Youth was already a problem. Crime rate was already a problem. So he needed someone to treat it as Germany as his baby and take care of all of these things. And that's why he specially hired Sachin. He aimed at a full production and a full employment through state-funded work creation program. So, bacha, employment of people was basically a state-funded program. So it was basically state funded. And he said that we need to have full production and full employment in our own places. If we start producing more and more things, one, we will have to import less amount of things, so we won't have to give money to other countries. Second, the more we are producing, the more number of people are going to be employed. So this is one thing that we have to do. Hitler pulled out of the League of Nations in 1933. Bacha, we know after World War I, League of Nations of the Allied Forces was formed. The idea of the League of Nations was similar to what we have United Nations right now. So this was, you could say, an ancestor of United Nation. Okay, the idea of these nations coming together into the League of Nations was to ensure that no Second World War happens, but certainly they failed, and that is what Hitler's point was also. He said that they were not useful. The League of Nations was not useful, and that is why he left. Now he proved it right. I mean, like with the Second World War, which he only conducted, which he only made happen, you could say, pushed the entire world towards it. It proved that the League of Nations was completely useless, and he left it in 1933. After which reoccupied the Rhineland. Guys, if you remember, Rhineland was snatched away from them. He reoccupied it in 1936 and integrated Austria and Germany in 1938 under the slogan, one people, one empire and one leader. He was from Austria, and always Austria and Germany have had a very good relationship. So he took Rhineland back. He said that this is mine, what belongs to me, what that belongs to me. He was on his agenda of taking everything back and taking every revenge of every loss that Germany had to go through. At the same time, he also combined with Austria. Bacha, he was also working in a way with Mussolini. Okay. Now, who was Mussolini? Bacha, he was the Italy dictator. He was the dictator of Italy, where fascism was going on, another kind of ideology. Do find out what is fascism. Now, after this, he decided to invest huge amounts of money. Hitler decided to invest huge amounts of money into the army, into the armament of the entire nation. Now, Sachin was advising against it. He did not want all of this amount to go into the rearmament, which means establishing the military. But Hitler, he wanted to establish, as you know, Germany as a superpower. So for that military, a very strong military was required. So the process of equipping military forces with new supply of weapons is what he was completely against. Sachin was completely against, but Hitler said no, it is going to happen. And then after that, he also took Sudeten land from Czechoslovakia. वो भी छीन लिया, he snatched away that also, and he had an unspoken support of England. Now, while he was doing all of these, the League of Nations should have reacted. But the problem was that its leaders, France, England, all of these countries were sitting quietly because somewhere they believed that the Treaty of Versailles was way too hard on Germany, and they were just acting out because of the disappointment that they received from the treaty. It is fine and it can be cured, and that is why they did not stop. Maybe if they would have stopped, the World War II wouldn't have happened. Now, he did not stop there. He chose only one way out of this whole situation, out of this economic crisis, was of war. For him, war was the only thing that was a solution for all of these problems. Now, resources were to be accumulated through expansion of territory. So he started believing that he needed resources for the development of the country in order to fight those wars, in order to equip military. Where would he get these resources from? By expanding and accumulating other countries around and taking them in. In September 1940, Germany invaded Poland. See, this is something that they should not have done. This kind of became the immediate cause of the Second World War. Now, when they were invading Poland, France and England, being the leaders of the League of Nations, warned Germany. They said that Germany, what you're doing is not right. Please do not go and invade Poland. But Germany wouldn't listen to anyone. He was like, shut up, I will go. As a result of which France, Hitler just not said that he will go. He in fact attacked France. Guys, he attacked France. As a result of this, obligation limitation that they were trying to put over Germany. He said, okay, fine, if you want to put an obligation, I will attack you only. Now, this really irritated them, as a result of which England and France attacked back on Germany. Now, this war is going on. This is ongoing. On top of it, September 1940, a tri-party pact was signed between Germany, Italy, and Japan. So, you can see Nazism, fascism. Now, Japan was also being very aggressive. We will discuss ahead what problems Japan was creating. End of 1940, Hitler was at the pinnacle of his power. He was at the peak of his power. He was the most powerful at this point. Okay. His long-term aim was to conquer the Eastern Europe. So he was already in the western part trying to expand. His idea was to conquer the Eastern Europe and take control over it as well. Why did he wanted to do that? He wanted to ensure food supplies and living space to the Germans. But this living space is a concept we will discuss in the end of the session. What does it mean? Okay? So he wanted to get all of these things for the Germans so that they could survive. And he attacked even Soviet Union in 1941, which was a historic blunder. Guys, Soviet Union is like that lion which is sleeping and should not be poked and woken up. But that's the fault. That's the problem. That's the mistake that Hitler did. It woke up, it poked and woke up the lion. Shouldn't have done that. Apart from that, because of this, what happened? See, on the western side, it was already exposed. France is there, Britain is there, England, all of these people are fighting. Now, after this, German was exposed to British aerial bombing, and Eastern Front was exposed to the powerful Soviet armies, guys. So now you can see the war for Germany is happening on two fronts now. One is on the western front with the USSR, with the Soviet, and on the eastern front, with the USSR, and on the western front, they were fighting with the Britain, France, all of these countries. Now, if you are being attacked from two sides, no matter even if you have provoked them, what will happen? You will ultimately be on the verge of lost. So this is the series of events of the Second World War. The Soviet Red Army inflicted crushing and humiliating defeat of Germany at Stalingrad. Okay, so they finally defeated them. Now, there were a lot of reasons for their defeat. First of all, two-front attack. Hitler did not used to be a very good leader. He was, but not an influential one. And he had delegated a lot of things. So, leadership lagged properly. Proper leadership basically lagged. So these are few factors because of which Germany finally lost it. The US initially had not entered the Second World War, guys. The First World War had really hurt them and they had really felt bad and did not want it to be a cause of all of this destruction. But Japan was not going to sit quietly, and that is what had attacked US. So they were expanding its power in the east, and when Japan extended its support to Hitler and bombarded Pearl Harbor, US entered the war. But if you remember, a tri-party treaty was signed between Italy, Germany, and Japan. Japan after some time walked out of it also. What Japan at this time was doing was they wanted to expand and gain more and more power, just like other countries. In China, they entered without any warning. When China went to the League of Nations to ask for help, they said, hey, handle it on your own, macha. Okay. So now the problem was that China was caught. Now what they were not only attacking China, they were taking up the communities, the colonies of France, of England, of US also, whatever colonies that were there, they had started overtaking it to be superpower. This was not acting in help this was not helping them. Now they were also planning on expanding in Asia. They were also planning on expanding on in the Pacific. Now, the moment they started to expand in the Pacific, President Roosevelt, who was there at that time, he stopped them by putting proper fleet in the army. Now, the moment he did that, Japan was really furious. That Pearl Harbor will not let us enter the Pacific, but we have to expand, so we will have to attack them, and that is why they attacked Pearl Harbor. Finally, the war ended in 1945 with Hitler's defeat and the US bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. So, bacha, Japan had really irritated everyone a lot. First, it was trying to get all the colonies. When after being explained, in order to maintain the peace, the League of Nations did not want to fight or did not want to have such wars and all. So they had agreed to the conditions of Japan, but Japan was not listening. It was basically expanding every day. It was stretching more and more the patience of everyone. And attacking Pearl Harbor was not a very good idea. In retaliation, US attacked Hiroshima and Nagasaki and also joined and became a part of the World War II. Now we are going to talk about what was the Nazis' world view. What did they used to think about the entire world? But your Nazi, see, Hitler was an Aryan, okay? He was of Aryan race, and he believed that they are the most pure breed and they are the most strongest one. So according to them, they believed in no equality and between people, but only racial hierarchy. And that is why he also overthrew democracy. As I told you, he did not believe in equality. But what he really believed was racial hierarchy. He said that the races of higher grade should stay together because only they are going to survive. The rest of the people are going to perish. They will not be able to survive. So the Nazi quickly began to implement their dreams of creating an exclusive racial community of pure Germans by physically eliminating all those who were considered undesirable. Anyone who was not desired was being sent off. Who were these people? People who were not pure blood, like Jews, Gypsies, Blacks, Russian, Poles, and certain Germans also. In fact, every German and every other citizen who was considered undesirable was abnormal. They had some physical disability also. They were being sent off. Imagine their own Germans, because they were born with some defect, they were being sent off. All of this said and done, they basically wanted to create a society of pure and healthy Nordic Aryans. They believed that they were very, very strong. And all of these policies, all of these thinkings, thoughts for him was coming from Charles Darwin and Herbert Spencer. And his argument, the Nazi argument, was that the strongest race would survive and the weak ones would perish. As I told you, the stronger ones will be able to live. The people who are weak, the weaker, what do you say? The weaker ones, the weaker group will automatically perish and die down. The Aryan race was the finest, is what Hitler believed. It had to retain its purity and become stronger and dominate the world, is what his beliefs were. The other aspect of Hitler's ideology related to the geopolitical concept of Lebensraum or living space. But your Lebensraum or living space is basically a concept that if you're living in an ecosystem, you want to expand it in order to make yourself more strong, in order to make yourself more sustainable. So that was his concept of living space. He believed that new territories had to be required for settlement, which was basically new living spaces were supposed to be covered up. Therefore, he intended to extend German boundaries by moving towards eastwards and concentrate all Germans geographically in one place. Whoever the other people, like for example, we know that Belgium people used to speak German, right? So he believed that maybe they should also be a part of Germany only because they're German speaking people, the nomadic Aryans. Okay, all of these things. And finally, Poland became the laboratory for its experiment. Now with this, guys, we have come to the end of today's session. Let's quickly look at the homework question. Which act established dictatorship on Germany? Act of Versailles, the League of Nations Act, Enabling Act, or the Fire Decree? And with this, we have come to the end of the session. Please do not forget to hit the like button if you have not already. I know all of you were waiting eagerly for this session. Guys, within 1 week, the third session will also come in. We'll very soon finish the chapter. You don't have to worry. Make sure that you're putting your answer in the comment section. You're putting your doubts in the comment section. Whatever doubts you have, I will be picking it up in the doubt and the session. And please also make sure to share the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I will see you guys very, very soon. Till then, stay home, stay safe, take good care of yourselves. Bye, guys.